So how you doing, Frank, man? Welcome to the show. You got
Doing well, man.
myself, Mike Bird here in Raleigh. We got Rob Chismark in Middleburg, Florida. Glad to have you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on, man. Yeah, hope you guys are doing good.
I can't complain. How about you, Rob?
Hey, I live in Florida. I don't know if there's any more I got to say.
All right, yeah. One
Just
day I was
dodging.
You
told
guys
that,
got
oh
leaves
man, there's more
turning.
people from North Carolina moving to Florida than I think are moving to from New York to North Carolina nowadays. Florida's like the hot spot.
Hey, California's having an exodus as well with the way the governor is taking over the state now that he wasn't recalled. I got some friends out there that are asking me what the house prices are here in Florida. So,
Are you lying to
yeah,
them?
I believe Florida's population is going to go up. I should be right. I think it's like 2 million. That's the lowest house we have.
Man,
Good gracious.
So yeah, a lot of people are moving.
yeah, I
A lot
don't know,
more.
man. They said once the Gavin Newsom won that recall, like the day after he invoked these vaccine passports. I don't know too much about it. I just know that's just not good, man. That's the start of something you don't want to see. That's like socialism, communism, and shit. But you know,
Yeah, well, all these nurses and doctors and stuff, losing their jobs because they're choosing not to get the vaccine. I mean, that's a scary thought.
you know, isn't that bullshit, man? Because back a year ago, we're praising these people as first responders and taking them free food and just you can't say enough about these first responders working in hospitals. Now you're wanting to fire them because they're not taking a mandated they're not following a mandate for taking vaccines. It's absolutely ridiculous to
Just
me.
just understand that's two different groups, but it's two different groups of people. It's not like it's the same people who are praising them. It's definitely a different group telling them that they need to take that vaccine.
Yeah, but you would think that the voices that praise them would kind of override those voices saying you need to take this shot. But
We're
that's
just
just not the
we're
way our
just
country
peasants,
works
man.
right
We're just
now.
peasants.
Yeah. Frank, do you see the cornhole
Come on.
world getting mandated vaccines?
Yes, I can. We're about to go to California for our first national. I can see 256 pros having a mandate for vaccine. I was having a conversation with Stacy Moore. Actually, he was having a conversation, and I was there in Virginia Beach, where he was talking about mandating vaccines for the entire pro league.
I,
So,
I,
Well, I
I
hope you're
certainly hope.
joking there. How about you,
I
Frank?
certainly hope not. I really do. I hope not. I mean, I would rather go back
he,
to, wearing the mask, doing the protective things, all that protocol that we went through before, rather than mandating a mask. To, it, I just think that you're infringing too much. Of course, I feel like most of us will do what the league asks of us, but if I had my rathers, I would rather it not go that route.
Yeah, and I didn't play with a mask on. Uh, Unfortunately, I didn't play last season. So, how was that? I mean, it couldn't be comfortable to be playing in a mask because when I worked out with a mask on, it was so uncomfortable, the breathing, and it can't be healthy to keep a mask on like that to impede your airflow. So, how was it playing?
It was different. I think honestly, the stepping out of the box was probably more of an adjustment for most people than even the mask. Just getting used to removing yourself from the player's box
Yeah.
and then coming back in when it's your turn. The masks were a little tough, especially for guys that wore glasses, because a lot of times they had to actually take a breath in to
Yeah.
throw. Because if they were exhaling, a lot of times they would fog the glasses. So it was definitely different for those guys. For me, it, probably just a little bit of an inconvenience, but honestly, I didn't feel like it, interfered with my throw too much. Just the, the hot air. Of course, you're breathing a little heavier in those tenser situations. So I think just thinking about that was probably the biggest thing for me. But I still would rather go that route than have a mandated, vaccine, kind of infringed on us. But
yeah, I'm not
yeah.
for anything mandated, but this isn't a Fox News podcast or anything, so we're not going to get into politics anymore. We're
Yeah.
trying to get listeners, so
Yeah.
We're trying to gain listeners, not lose listeners. And I
yeah,
can
I
hear
know,
them
right?
leaving.
I went almost maybe 6 to 8 months without even watching a news show. I actually had my cable turned off, and I just watched Netflix and some other things. The only time I seen the news was when I went to work, and
All right.
of course, doing what I do, it's on Fox News.
Yeah.
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 So, hey, Frank, man, so a lot of people don't know this, but me and you kind of grew up in the same area. You're from Jamesville, North Carolina. I'm from Windsor, North Carolina. Probably, 30 minutes from each other.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
45, something like that. And we kind of grew up knowing some of the same people. I played against you probably in softball when I
I'm
was a
sure.
teenager. You
Mhm.
played on a team called the Fireballs, and I know that was like the loaded-ass softball team back in the day. I knew a lot of the guys that played on that team, Petey Bird and Stacy Mazzell, a lot of those guys. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
when you told me you knew those guys and you played on the team, I was like, wow, man, and now you're playing cornhole. Damn. So tell us the story, man. What got you into cornhole? What lit that fire?
Well, I had just really kind of I was kind of phasing out of softball when I started playing cornhole. You know how it is, man. You get to the point where you play so long and things don't move quite like they used to. So yeah,
Yeah.
we were doing some camping down on the Outer Banks with the family, and I saw some guys play, and they invited me over. Man, I threw my first bag and was hooked right away. I got my butt kicked, so that right there made me want to. All right, I got to figure this thing out. So,
Huh.
but yeah, talking about Windsor, and I came through the Hosky area in Windsor today, actually. But yeah, I saw one of you. I guarantee you probably know Doug White, don't you?
That
You
name, it sounds familiar. Definitely
yeah,
sounds. If I see his face, I bet I'll be like, oh yeah, I know him.
he played on some. He played on the Fireballs and some of the other teams back then too. But yeah, Petey Burden, Stacy. Oh my goodness, all the Hoggards and Mazels over there, and the
Oh
White.
yeah, yeah. The Hoggards and Mazzills, bro. That's all Bertie County and Hertford County and that area is. You know.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But yeah, no. I used to pitch a lot in softball,
Uh,
and I. It's crazy the number of people in cornhole that I hear used to play softball and they used to be pitchers. But there's a lot of them.
I'm one of those.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Yeah.
go. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the same rhythm. As far as the emotions and everything. So you've got to hit those targets.
Like when you played softball, you were a pitcher. How much traveling did you do? Did you do any out of state traveling? Like, how competitive did you guys get? I know Fireballs was probably one of the top teams. I know they were always playing every damn weekend, and we hated playing them.
We played a lot, that's for sure. When I first started playing, uh, it was mostly within three states: North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. Um, but then the further I got into it, and I started playing with a team called Sears Mikan, and we did quite a bit of traveling throughout the U.S. Got to the point where I was probably spending more nights in motels on the weekends than I was at home. So, yeah, it's similar to cornhole. We travel quite a bit in cornhole. I think, well, I know for sure I travel more with cornhole now, further distances than I did with softball.
Well, let me ask you this: how much money did you ever win playing softball?
Oh my goodness.
Zero.
Like that's exactly right. I've chased that white ball all over this country, and other than having a smile on your face with that trophy, with all the scrapes and bruises and cuts,
Oh,
but yeah,
scar
you blood,
tissue
sweat,
on
and tears.
top of scar tissue.
Oh
Like,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
being a pitcher, man, I got hit up the middle a couple of times and right in my shin bone. Excuse me, and man, it caves in nice. You can take your finger and push in like half an inch. Nothing
Yeah.
but nasty fluid. It's great. I miss them days.
And the truth is, you really do miss those days.
Oh, absolutely.
And Frank's not lying, man. You reach a point where your body just won't allow you to do certain things. And like Frank played a long time. I played for years, man. I played travel ball in Colorado when I lived there, and then when I moved here, I tried to play up in Raleigh a little bit, and I was going 3 nights a week, man, playing softball. And Frank can attest to hip issues. I've got hip issues now, and these things, man, they won't let me do hardly anything. Even when I'm playing cornhole, I'm like, oh God, I got to pick these bags up. Shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was something, Mike. You said last week you wanted to talk to Frank about those operations. You kind of mentioned that last week. So.
Oh yeah, I'm about to get my robo hips. I got my first one scheduled for November 9th. So we're going to see how that goes. So, and Frank, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but how long did that operation take you out? Like, what was your rehab? Because, I mean, you're like making pro shootouts now.
Yeah, probably shorter than it should have. It was kind of crazy. I went down for my surgery and went through I really hadn't even got into rehab at this point, but 2 weeks later, I went to a regional on crutches, and I would walk out onto the boards on crutches, and Jordan Kamba and I won a regional up there with Rocky.
On crutches.
Well, now I wouldn't throw with crutches.
Yeah.
I would walk up to the board and
Wow.
but kind of crazy, but just don't want to quit,
Well, I noticed I noticed some YouTube videos where you were playing different time periods on ESPN, and you've developed a lunge after you released the bag. Is that something that you picked up because of the hip surgery, or did you have that before?
Yeah, it's kind of like a follow-through step, and I've always had a little bit of a lunge, but the follow-through has come after. What happened was I could stand still and throw. I still practice it some, but what I found was if I tried to go the length of a tournament, you know how our tournaments are. Sometimes, we might be starting at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning and still going 10, 11 o'clock at night. But I was finding that, man, I was having to take quite a bit of ibuprofen. I would take anywhere from 8 to 12 ibuprofen just to make it through a tournament. And I didn't like doing that. I just don't like taking a lot of medicine. And even by doing that, the next day trying to, like if you had to play a second day, getting up and getting moving was, it was rough. Just really got to the point where I was not able to play for long periods of time. And then I'm always toying with my throw, like all of us tweak. But I started this little bit of a follow through. Actually, I saw Jamie Graham doing it a little bit. That's kind of, I think, where I got the idea. And I started just messing with it. And I found that, man, this doesn't cause as much torque on my midsection. If I follow through, if I let that motion just continue forward, it doesn't torque as much. And what happened after that was, of course, I guess my body was healing too, but it would allow me to play an entire tournament without having to take any pain meds or ibuprofen or anything like that.
Okay.
So that helped me tremendously.
So that was more of a change for your health, like your overall well-being during a tournament, not because it helps the bag go in, or you didn't find it to be like a better technique.
Yeah, no, I didn't really. In the beginning, I didn't feel like it was an improvement. I thought it was just going to be another obstacle that I was going to have to get around trying to figure out that, I've had a couple of different things I've had to change along the way because of the whole hip thing. Back when COVID first hit, I was trying to make that adjustment from right foot forward to left foot forward because I couldn't no longer stand on my right hip. And before, I guess it was probably 9.5, 10 years, I was a right foot forward thrower. Mm-hmm. So I used that period that we went down just a little bit for, when COVID first hit, and we went virtual some to transition from right foot to left foot forward. So I've been tweaking all along, and I still don't feel like I've quite got back to where I was with right foot forward, but close.
Wow. Well, I think you're doing pretty good right now at the way you're throwing.
in the finals of the shootout. But that goes to what you were saying. Those are shorter tournaments, so you were able to be 100% for a shorter time. So the 10 rounds, 12 rounds were perfect for you. So I look to see you in plenty of shootout finals coming in the near future.
I appreciate that. I sure hope so. That'd be awesome.
Let me ask you a question on that step through with the new and huge debate that's come up with the ACL and that new step through, and it puts somebody in the lane now when you come out of your box and that kind of stuff. Is that going to make you tweak your throw at all so that you're not lunging forward over the line anymore, or have you thought about that?
Yeah, I've had some discussions. Catherine Kennedy and I have talked about it. What really with the new rule, it shouldn't affect me that much, because what I do with my follow through, I typically leave my left foot in the box, and I pretty much immediately return to the box. So and basically what they're supposed to do, your opponent is supposed to wait for your bag to come to a rest before they start their throw, because you don't know if it's a bag easing back towards the hole. It just has to complete its movement before they start their throw. And I've watched quite a bit of video. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't interfering with my opponent, and it doesn't seem to. I return to the box fairly quickly, and I think as long as I leave my left foot in the box, then I'm still keeping that 1 foot in, so to speak.
Well, it plays the same way as it would be playing if you were stepping to the side, right?
Yes.
As long as you've got 1 foot in. Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's a little different. The only reason it's so much different is because now you're in front of the board and out in front. That's that's why that rule has been kind of developed that way, just because of that out in front of the box thing.
If it was eliminated, like if that like if it was called 100% of the time, if anybody went across the foul line, it would actually change our game tremendously, because a lot of the new shots that have came about here recently in the last 2 years, maybe even within the last year, some of them, the younger guys have a lot of shots that are super entertaining. They're very difficult shots. And a lot of those guys have that follow through, and almost looks like a fall through.
Yeah.
But if honestly, some of those shots are just so amazing. If, when they get to big moments, if you took those away, I think it would hurt the sport a little bit. It would almost be like taking away a dunk from basketball. These guys have these rollover shots and flop shots, and oh my God, it's just crazy.
And I can hear what you're saying, but a sport like bowling, it doesn't matter how incredible the shot is, they're not allowed to cross the foul line, right? And that's what that line has always been called. The line there in front of the board has been called the foul line. So, when you take a foul shot, you can't cross the foul line. These are things to me that are important, and we need to establish some sort of rule. And so that difficult shot that's amazing, why not make it a little bit more challenging so they have to learn it again, but stay in the box while they do it? That's just like a devil's advocate kind of argument. To me, the rule is, if you have a problem with it, learn how to make it work for you. That's the way it is for me. Like when I'm playing, I don't have a problem with anybody stepping out. I don't have a problem with anybody stepping through. But to me, like, why not make it a little bit more challenging? Again, as devil's advocate, now they stay in the box and still make those great shots.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and just, foul line is all I'm talking about.
Just like other professional sports, they're evolving every year. Why not just evolve cornhole and do away with calling that a foul line and let it play the same as the sidelines, on the side of the boxes? Because I know players, like Dayton Weber. He's been jumping out of the box since I've known him, and we all know how,
right.
Dayton, that's just his technique, the way he throws. I know other players, man, that always stepped out, and some of them, they would step out so far that they got in your peripheral vision and kind of messed up your rhythm you had. And, cornhole, it's like Frank was talking earlier about the COVID and playing and having to get out of the box after every throw. Some people, that kills them because they live on that rhythm, that mindset.
Yeah.
You can't break that. You got to just
yeah.
But why not just evolve the rule? Do away with the foul line and
they did evolve the rule this year. You basically have to be back. Frank said the same thing about himself. He keeps 1 foot in and he gets back long before his bag comes to rest. Mm-hmm. And Frank, you're right. There's no doubt that you're back in time. But there are players, and there are those shots where those guys leave the entire box because they're jumping so hard to try to get that extra oomph on that bag for that roll or for that big push or any of those spectacular shots. Some of those guys are landing 1.5 feet in front by the time they're done, and do the bags come to a rest? No, usually they blow them all over the place. You can't tell if they're resting, and they're still 2 feet out of the box. So it's, you know what I mean? Those are the things that are really going to have to be looked at. But you know how it is at a national. It's not like there's a referee with the black and white on, blowing a whistle, throwing a flag on you. So it's basically going to be self-policed, and none of us are really going to be like, usually we see that shot and we're like, holy crud, that was an incredible shot. We're not even worrying about where they are. We're giving them a fist bump,
That's me right there. Even if I'm playing that person, honestly, and I'm not doing this to advocate it because I do the follow through step, but I'm just like you, Rob, right there. If Eric Davis, which is one of the best pushers or he's got a super rollover shot. He's just got a basket full of different skill shots that he can perform. And I mean, if I'm his opponent and he hits one of those daggum shots playing against me, man, I'm not paying attention to where he's at.
Right.
I'm doing the same thing. Man, heck of a shot. I mean, it's just how we are. That I think most of your top competitors are going to give that same answer. They're not going to sit there and want to take a shot away from somebody because of a technicality. Not happening. Your weaker players might say that.
I was just going to say, do you see anybody trying to take in the future? I'll say what I see. In the future, I see somebody saying, hey, you were out of the box for that. Hey, I see that coming up sometime in an important situation. Do you see that possibly happening?
If they're scared.
You got to read some of the comments on these Facebook Lives and on these ESPN videos of some of the players. That's where the trolls come out in comments, man. Yeah,
it's awesome. And who knows what level of cornhole player that is? I have seen some of them where these people were brand new, and they said, I thought you were supposed to stay in the box. Yeah. Those were a lot of the questions that were being asked on some of the videos that I saw. So it's just crazy, but I think it will become a debate, and I think something will come up. I think somebody will be scared. So if that's what they have to be, is scared, I think we're going to see somebody that's afraid at a national at some point. It's October, so you're supposed to be scared in October, right?
That's true. That's true. But no, I'm joking about the scared part.
Of course you are.
Yeah, I think it will, come out. It's been, a big topic for the last year or so. But honestly, I think that no matter who it is, me as a player, if the ACL sets a rule in place, just like with the new, change this season, then I have to follow it. I have to adjust my throw to fit within the realm of the rules. And we're, your professional players are going to do that. They're not going to take a risk on having a dead bag called on them, especially in big situations. So I feel like your players will adapt. The new rule, like I say, I think that for the most part, the follow through step is going to fall within that range of the rule. Maybe some of the ones that have the step out a couple of steps into the lane, they may make some changes, but I hope they don't. I really hope they don't enforce it too much where it restrains those guys, because if I could do those shots, I'd be out there doing it too. And
what do you think about those shots, man? I personally, and I've said this on the podcast before, I hate that flop shot. It's the worst. I mean, it's because it's been performed on me several times by younger players. I've yet to see a player of ilk perform this shot. You know what I'm saying? It's always the 20-year-old and younger players that do this shot, and I don't know how they get it down so pat like that, but it's crazy. It's a great shot if you got it in your repertoire.
Well, what's so entertaining about it is you see it once. Oh, that was a lucky shot. He got lucky.
Yeah.
But then he does it 2, 3, 4 times. And you're like, wait a minute, this actually is a skill shot. He's actually trying to do that. He's trying to make that bag do that. And these guys are super at it. They're really good at it. And it honestly changes the mindset of the game, because now, used to, it was, push, block, slide, airmail, type, that was your shots. But now you have to think about who you're playing and what they're capable of. So your blocks don't mean the same anymore. A lot of times now, with a player that can actually hit all of those shots with, high accuracy, I honestly don't want to get into that match with them. And I like the airmail. You guys know that. I mean, that's my style of play, is block and airmail. But if I'm playing an Eric Davis or a Berkeley Pear, or any of these guys that are really highly skilled at all of these shots, then honestly, I don't try to get into that whole blocking game with them. I really rather just bore them to death and keep the board clear.
Yeah, you're not.
Don't leave them anything to flop over.
Right.
You're not playing with the old school ACO 450 bags. The block in the airmail doesn't play these days like it used to.
Well, there's a lot of bags out there still that you can perform skill shots with, but it is become a lot more of a whole shot game. Here recently, it's kind of transitioned back where you're, adding a lot more defense into it and muddying up the boards, and then you start to see some of these skill shots come into play. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is. It's an ever evolving thing, I guess, with the sport.
Well,
I've go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, watching you in that shootout, I know that you are working on your own flop shot. Tell me how that's going.
Not bad. Mine's just ugly. It's not pretty. I don't have the straight rollover shot like these guys do. For some reason or another, I can't tilt the bag like they can. Well, actually, I can. But what I found when I start trying to practice that a lot, then it throws other shots off, if that makes sense. So it takes away from my accuracy on my straight slides, and it takes away from my accuracy on my air meals. So I get real nervous with that. So I go right back to square one. You you don't never want to get away from your bread and butter. So I've tried to practice that some, but it doesn't work for me quite yet. The flop shot that Rob you're talking about, that does work for me a little bit, but it has to be situational. I find that if I try to use it too much, that it can hurt me more than it can help me. So I'll try to pick situations where the bags are situated on the boards where it's flop friendly, and it's advantageous for me to do that versus an air mill, because I can just get up onto a situation or maybe block a hole, like just cover the whole situation rather than taking a chance on blowing the back on the air mill. So yeah, I really try to pick my spots for those situations, but starting to include it in there a little bit more.
Frank, did you ever think cornhole would be where it is right now? Did you ever think you would be where you are right now on ESPN, CEO of a bag company? Probably, have you retired from your regular job yet?
I'm not teaching anymore. This was my first year. Yeah, this is my first year that I didn't go back. And Brenda, she retired this past school year also.
Good for you guys.
I appreciate it, man. This is a dream come true for all of us. There's no way, 5 or 6 years ago that you could have asked us, would the sport be where it's at today? I don't think any of us could have foreseen that, other than Stacy Moore. I think I know he had this vision. We sat down at a dinner. I played in his events way back, before it was called the ACL, and
ATL, yep.
Yeah, ATL, and then I think it was the first year.
Carolina Cornhole League too is what it was. CCL or whatever.
Yeah, something like
right?
that. They had that
Carolina
big Megagate thing.
Yep.
Right. But yeah, so we sat down at a dinner one time after his, I don't think it was called Worlds at that time. I think it was still called, I think it was Cobb's. But yeah, but we sat down, had dinner, and he explained to me, what his plan was for the sport, and he just laid it out from A to Z. And I'm not kidding. I think if not all of it, at least 90% of it has come to fruition. I knew at that point that that was the direction that I wanted to head. And I really have not regretted it one bit, coming over to the ACL. Mm-hmm. ESPN, CBS Sports, unreal, NBC Sports, just it's a dream come true for all of us, for real.
When did you make that jump? Was that 2017 from the ACO to the ACL?
That sounds about maybe 16. Seems like 16.
16.
I think it was the end of 16. I think I remember playing with you it was a major in Lakeland in the beginning of that season, whatever that was, season 10, 11 of the ACO. You and me, I think that was the first time, maybe the first time we met in person. Was one of the first, what do they call them? What do they call those? Majors. One of the first majors that was in Florida that year, regionals in Lakeland. Yeah. And that's when you met Luke Johnson for the first time. And he played you in a cash game, and it was just awesome the way you treated him, and really you gave him fire for the game. That night was one of the first nights that I actually saw Luke Johnson with actual fire for the game, and he wanted to become somebody like Frank Modlin. So that's what, Mike, we were talking earlier about when I come in, because I've just seen Frank do so many cool things in this sport for people that he may not even remember that he did it, but these people remember it for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? So
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, Luke's he's one of my buddies for sure. A lot of that guy. I can't call him little no more. He's then got old on us, driving trucks and all this kind of stuff. No, just we're just fortunate. I mean, to be able to meet as many people as we do, and for them to think something of you. I mean, we don't deserve all this. We just are fortunate enough that we're able to throw a bag in a hole pretty decent, and we get to travel a lot and meet our families have extended throughout the entire country and now start to extend throughout the entire world. It's just crazy. Very, very fortunate.
Hey, I heard this rumor about you back in the day. Is it true when you were teaching?
Wait.
Because you were a gym teacher, right?
Rumors? Let's not talk about rumors.
There was a rumor you used to throw at school in the gymnasium during the day while you were at work.
Oh my goodness, I've done that a ton for sure. Absolutely. We would incorporate into our PE programs. I would throw during my lunch breaks. I would throw during some of my planning periods. But yeah, every chance I got, I would break the boards out. I mean, because no one starts out really good at this game. It takes a while, and the ones that put the effort into it, they can see the returns for sure. But I definitely got my share of whoopings handed to me along the way, and it really only sparks that fire, like you were talking about with Luke. It just drives us to be better. All of us are super competitive, and it's just in us. And you want to be as good at it as you possibly can be.
How much practice were you getting in? Like Jamie Graham, for example, told us on the podcast he was throwing like from, what did he say, Rob? He'd get home at 3:30 and throw till 7.
Practice till dark. Yeah, practice till dark.
So he was. Yeah. He said he did that for a year straight, didn't miss a day. How about you, Frank? Were you that hardcore?
I was pretty hardcore, but I don't think anyone has Jamie beat. Now there's some young guys out there now that are, oh my goodness, they are putting in the hours and it's starting to show. But Jamie, his work ethics were crazy, and he was doing all of his out in the conditions, the weather, most, I would probably say 90% of Jamie's practices was outside. I was fortunate enough to, I threw a lot indoors. So I probably, I've been asked that question many times, and it's hard to put a number on it because mine were so sporadic, but I would say an average when I was really, really trying to get better, I was probably putting in 2 or 3 hours a day.
That's a lot.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so I want to kind of take this away from Frank, the player, kind of. I don't want to take this into Frank, the creator, right? I want to tell a short story first. One day we were at Cobb's. It was still called Cobb's. It was in Cherokee, North Carolina. We were down there, and I can't remember if it was very late in the night or very early in the morning. But I was down there throwing by myself, and you came up and you were throwing next to me. And then we were just going to play some fun games. And you would throw a block, and I would block behind you. And then you would do your thing. And I would just keep trying to figure out a way to play what I was thinking was smart, by, doing a little cut around bag or, so wrap it with slick bags and wrap it in the back of the hole. Not the cut shot of today, but that. And we played that game. We finished it, and you looked at me and you said, "Rob, you're a good air mailer. It's time for you to start using it." And I was like, if this guy tells me I'm a good air mailer, guess what? I must be." So from then on, that's what I did. I just started, if a block came up, I was looking for that airmail. Now maybe I used a little too much, but I do want to thank you for that, because that was a good day. That was a big day for me. So
that's awesome, man. Now I remember my exact comment to you. I told you that you don't pull the trigger often enough. You're too good of an airmailer not to, and you honestly do have a great airmail. And I've played you here recently. I can't remember exactly where we were at, but it's been within the last couple of months. And holy cow, you killed it then too. And I guess it's natural for us. We've played sports all our life, different sports. We want to play smart. But honestly, in this sport, and I can remember back when I first started, I had a buddy of mine that told me, if you didn't get to the point where you were at least a 50% air mailer, then you would never, be very good at this sport. And I mean, I really thought that was a joke. I seriously thought that was, you're kidding me. You're talking about, throwing it, was really 30 feet by the time you had the 3 foot of the board. So 30 feet into a 6-inch hole, and doing this at a 50% accuracy, I was like, that's not possible. But now the players have surpassed that 50. If I would say at the the elite level, now you probably are in the upper 60s in key situations, I would say. And of course, a lot of them supersede that, and hit into 70s and 80s, and crazy percentages. But honestly, I think some of us do, when we first start out, we tend to try to play what we call playing smart, and conservative. But if you do find that you have a shot that you're great at, or you feel like you're pretty good at, then you have to use it to your advantage. Rob's was airmail. He could hit shot. So like if I'm putting down a block, if Rob puts down a block behind me, especially if it's a low block, then he's just wasting that bag. He was good enough at it that I think that he should have just been shooting over me, and then me have to contend with my own block.
Yeah.
That's what you taught me that day. That's for sure what you taught me that day.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that a lot, Rob. That means a lot.
He was basically saying, grab your balls, Rob, and throw the bag.
That's what he said. But Frank never says it like that.
Because he's the nice guy of cornhole. Don't you know this? Frank's got that reputation. You've had the reputation for 10+ years. You are the nice guy of cornhole, Frank.
But I feel like, though, man, if they keep miking me up, they're going to find out different.
If you keep winning, they're going to keep miking you up.
I feel like the truth's going to come out. They're going to hear some of this stuff.
How close have you been to swearing on ESPN, man?
Oh, I'm sure I have. You try to stay composed, but man, that competitive nature, it comes out. I'm sure I've said some things. I honestly just get so upset with myself in certain situations. And I guess all of us do. You put in so much time and effort into this, and then when you do silly stuff, I think that's the biggest thing I beat myself up over is mental mistakes.
Yeah.
When I do make mental mistakes and not hit shots that we're supposed to hit at a 90-some% rate. When you don't hit those in certain situations, which I had one here recently that was a pretty big
cost
one.
You a couple $1,000.
Cost me a little. It hit the wallet pretty hard.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but.
Oh my goodness! But honestly, that was a crazy deal. When that bag left my hand, I thought I hit it. Honestly, I hit my target, and I must have just pulled off of it just a tiny bit, and it just up.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, because it didn't really look mental. That looked physical. And I was going to ask you what the difference was. Was it because of the situation that caused you to pull off of it in your assessment? I'm sure you've watched it. What was it? Was it physical because of the situation?
Yeah, I think it was because honestly, mentally, I thought, because I took the time out, I walked down, I kind of assessed it. I know it looked like a fairly standard shot, but in that moment, I thought that I knew the way that the bags were positioned, that Adam's bag had a potential of being a little bit of a hindrance of the hole. And I knew that. I knew in my mind that was, that could come into play. So I picked my weak point of the whole shot, which is, if you've got a situation where you've got a push shot, and I really wasn't concerned so much with making my push shot as I was just concerned with getting one bag in the hole. And my weak point was maybe 3/4 of a way to the left of my bag that was positioned in front of the hole. And I hit my spot. When I hit the spot, when it left my hand, I knew it was headed in the right direction. And at that point, I thought that I had done everything mentally and physically. But man, when the bag hit the board, I noticed that it didn't have the momentum. As soon as it hit the board, I knew that the momentum might. And I was like, oh man. So it was definitely a physical thing. I guess I pulled up on it just a little bit, and it's crazy that the sport has gotten to that. That fractions can cost you thousands of dollars. Or in Adam's on his side, it can gain you thousands of dollars. So, yeah,
I'm glad we can laugh about it now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. I struggled with it terribly that night. I honestly, and I know people probably think this is crazy, but I honestly could not sleep. I replayed it over and over. I mean, I'm talking about I won't trying to replay it. I would try to forget it, and my mind would just go right back to it, and I would replay it over and over and over again. And at that point, I hadn't watched it. I hadn't watched a shot, so I was just trying to think, what the heck could I have done different? And I even was contemplating, should I maybe have airmailed? Because but then I think about that, if I go for an airmail, which is not beyond the realm of possibilities for me in that situation, but if I go for an airmail and I blow the back, I'm the biggest, craziest nut,
Right.
So I went with the smart shot. I went with the shot that I was supposed to go to, and I guess I just pulled it up a little bit. I left the.
And you kept.
Say it again.
Brenda was making phone calls, canceling trips. Is that why you kept replaying it?
Yes.
You could hear her canceling all the trips.
Damn it, Frank! There goes our Hawaii trip.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad we can laugh about it now.
Yeah.
At McDonald's instead of steakhouse.
Yeah. We going Sizzler. Let's go. So, hey, Frank. So
That's
one
good.
of my favorite moments, as far as ESPN goes, ESPN clips on YouTube. You are in it, but you're not the one throwing the bag. It was Tyler Poitras.
Oh.
So let's go back. It's 19-19. You're playing Eric Davis and Brett Guy. All right. By the way, one of my favorite quotes came out of this one too. 20 plays the same as 19.
Yeah.
Is that should go on a T-shirt, man? You should give it all cornhole. You should patent that, put it on a T-shirt. It would sell. But
got enough patents already. Leave them alone.
What was going through your mind when you saw Tyler looking at it, contemplating that airmail? Because that's what he was thinking. He was not thinking about laying up, and he wanted to end it right then. And this was like his quote-unquote retirement shot. I still don't think he's retired, but we'll see. But what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I don't think Tyler's done by no means. Tyler played some of his best cornhole probably 3/4 of the way through that tournament, all the way to the end. Tyler Poitras is, and sorry, I'm getting off topic here a little bit, but
no.
Tyler is crazy. Most players play better out on the floor, and for those that don't know cornhole, the floor is where the bulk of the tournament happens. It's before we get to the screens. It's before we get to the digital play or even TV or whatever. All of these teams have to go through a tremendous amount of games out there on the main floor. Tyler, when he gets to the point where he's playing on stage, and no matter what the situation, his game elevates. It's crazy. For most people, it's right the reverse. They don't exceed in those situations, but he does. He to me, he shows the skills of a professional player. All of us hope to be able to do that in those situations, and he does. But what I was thinking in that particular situation with Tyler, and I do like that 19 plays the same as 20, and that was kind of leading up to that shot. We had a situation that was a little bit questionable whether we should throw the bag, and I've heard different opinions about that, but that particular quote came from where we were going to either move to 19 or 20, depending on if Tyler just tried to board the last bag. But 19 does essentially play the same as 20. It essentially makes your opponent at the pro level. You don't have many pros in key situations that are going to throw a bag off the board. So 18 is really, really, really different than 19. But even at the pro level, in tough situations, you may have somebody leave a bag hanging on the hole. The bag just might not cooperate for them, or they may miss left and right just a tad bit. So 19 plays dramatically different at the end, rather than 18. Mm-hmm. So to guarantee us to get into that 19 slot was the reason we chose to go that route in that decision in the third round from the end, I think. But then the airmail shot, here's my thought process on that. We're playing against probably or arguably one of the best teams in the country. And they had some of the most success of any team out there this season. And we've got a chance, even though if it was a small chance, we've got a chance to put it away.
Well, that team just won the pro shootout doubles, right? So that just shows the caliber of that team is.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I don't think anybody could put a list together and leave Brett and Eric out of a top 3 list from this past season. I think if you ask 20 people, all 20 are going to have them in a top 3 list. So, we were in a spot where we had the chance to win the game, even though it was a little bit of risky shot. I think the reward versus the risk was there. Tyler is a smart enough player. He knew that if he was going to miss that shot, he was going to miss it long. So if he blows the back, we're cool with that. But if he makes it, hey,
it's a wrap.
And he sunk it, man. Yeah. Went right before he went to take that shot. A lot of players have a different mentality that they're in certain sports, you want everything quiet and you want to be able to focus on the shot. Right before that shot, I sat there and tried to rile the crowd up, get them pumped up. And I went, if you go back and watch that video, as soon as I did that, a big smile come across Tyler's face. And I think he relaxed in that moment. And when he did, I just had a lot of confidence that he was going to hit that shot, and he did it.
Man, a lot of people would dream of doing that, man. On ESPN, that's like the equivalent of walking off home run, bottom of the ninth, full count.
Absolutely.
Came through.
I wish it was for the championship. That's my only wish for you guys that was for the championship, because wow, the eruption in that crowd was unbelievable too. It was just so awesome. The whole situation. I was standing down at Tyler's end, and I'm just hit it. I'm just down there just cheering for him, and holy moly, when he hit it, that eruption was unbelievable.
That was crazy. Big players doing big things in big moments, man. And Tyler's a big player in the sport for sure.
Well, hopefully he comes back and his retirement was like mine. Maybe take a couple of years off to do other things and then cornhole ends up calling you back. It does.
Right.
You know, it does.
Some
And
point.
I'm glad to be back. You know, it's good to like see some of the old faces again and meet some of the new players. You know.
Good to have you back, man, for sure.
Oh man,
But
yeah.
it's tough though. You know, our sport is kind of still in its infancy. We've grown at a crazy rapid rate, you know, over just a short amount of time. But you know, a lot of our players still have, you know, full-time jobs and, you know, life and family and all that stuff that they're having to deal with, along with, you know, trying to play cornhole. And, you know, like we were talking about earlier with the travel, we travel quite a bit. It's hard to juggle all that. So some players do get to the point where it you know, becomes a little too much and they have to step back and, you know, kind of refocus. And but just like with you, Michael, we all love it too much to stay away from it.
Yeah. And you know, I left on a high note. Me and Brian Lynn, we won a major in Charlotte, and then after that, I was like, you know what, there was too much drama in the cornhole land for me back then. Because we've discussed this on last episode of the Sticky Side, where you know the drama between, because I used to be with the ATL as a commissioner or CO and ran their tournaments, and then you know there was this whole ACL thing and Facebook drama, and you know I was getting burned out on it, so that's kind of why I retired, just to get away from that. And man, I got tired of running tournaments. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know how players that are COs or certified officials for either organization, I don't know how they can be great players too. It's just tough.
It's very tough.
Oh, I give props all the time to, you know, the directors and you know all of these guys that help run tournaments. It's a thankless job, man. These guys do so much to make these events happen. And it's, you know, it's not just the day of, you know, there's so much that goes into the prepping for these tournaments, you know, lining up venues and equipment and then you've got all of us that they have to contend with, you know. But yeah, they're not, we can't appreciate them enough. That's for sure. Those guys, they're the heartbeat for sure.
Well, Frank, what do you think? Back then, anyway, what's the number one question a player would ask a CO?
What's that now?
What's the payout?
Rob got it.
What's the payout?
Director.
Yeah.
And look, that goes back to that softball topic we were talking about, and I think about that a lot too. You know, we did play softball for all those years, and you know there was never a money prize, never. Like I've never played in a tournament where I won, you know, money. You know, some players were fortunate enough that they were able to get paid to play some, but you had to be a very elite player to do that. But you know, we played for, you know, trophies all the time. But cornhole, you know, ever since I've been playing it, there's always been monetary prizes. And now with the ACL, you know, we've got guys that are playing for a living now. It's crazy how it's evolved.
And Rob and I were talking about this, the practice and being able to practice all the time. And one thing that I respected with you is because you were raising a family. You were working a full-time job. You got a wife, you know, you got to get home to. You're not like these younger kids coming up like Jamie Graham and Eric Davis. You know, they go to school, they come home and practice all the time, you know, and that's just the same with the youth we have now. They just get practice and practice and practice. That's why they're so good. But you did it while being a dad, you know, and working a full-time job. And you're at that same level. So, hey, kudos to you, man. And there's a lot more people that are similar ilk, and I'm not going to call you old, Frank, because I'm right there with you.
Oh, look, people say getting old. I was like, you could take that ing off. I'm already there. I'm just glad to be here, you know.
Oh, you ain't lying, man.
But no, I'm blessed, man. You know, of course, without the good Lord, none of us, would be here. And some of us leave too early, as we've, experienced here, losing, Rocky. Can't talk about that too much. I'll be done broke down. But yeah, I've been blessed, man. My family has always been so supportive. My wife is unbelievable. She has been my biggest fan since day one. My girls are huge fans. They follow me even now. Wherever I'm at, whether it's on TV or whether it's just a open event that we're traveling to, they're watching or either following along on brackets or or whatever. So there's no way I could have done it without them supporting me, because if they hadn't been behind me, I wouldn't have put as much effort into it. When my girls were able to go with me to tournaments and stuff like that, part of what I got out of winning was seeing them kind of be proud of me. And that it didn't matter about what money or anything like that. That meant so much more. I mean, to have your girls proud of you for doing something, it don't get any better than that. My daughters now, when I'm at a tournament or something and they are messaging back and forth, or if they're, there with us in the audience or whatever, and, they act like that dad's doing something pretty decent. Hey man, that's a big win right there. You just don't get any better.
Cause we all just wanna be cornhole stars, saying keep hotels and driving beat up cars. The crowd gets crazy and the beers ain't cheap. We get drunk all day, so we just don't eat, and we hang out at the local bar, throwing bags in the hole like we have it all.